And with that, number 10, Duke Thomas. Now I feel like this might bother a few people, but honestly, this young blood still has to prove himself in my eyes. There's absolutely no doubt he is powerful. As one of the only metahumans on the Bat family roster, he is already naturally a cut above many others, but there are so many more that could bring him down without even needing superpowers. Powers don't always equal superiority on this family. Speaking of his powers though, Duke wields Ghost Vision, which he uses to perceive people and moments in the past and the future. He also wields a cosmic awareness that extends into other realities and has even used the ability to travel across dimensions by using light and shadow. He originally started as part of the We Are Robin movement, but left and ended up making it on his own. Batman took him in, helped train him, and then sent him out to be part of the new Outsiders team with Black Lightning. Number 9, Damian Wayne. You see, the thing with Damian Wayne here is that he is just kind of a big old pain in any bat-shaped butt. By all accounts, Damian Wayne could grow to become the best Robin and even possibly the best of the Bat family. There is no doubt he has an incredible amount of skill, having been raised and trained by Ra's al Ghul, Talia al Ghul, the League of Assassins, and Batman himself. He is more than capable, but he is a child, and an incredibly obnoxious child who lacks any discipline, loyalty, or commitment, not to mention the fact that he lacks a real moral code of any kind. His arrogance and his youth are bad enough that they bring this little guy way down on this list, but give it some time, things may change. If y'all are enjoying this list so far, make sure you give it a like for part 2, or maybe even a list of Batman Incorporated members? Ooh. Number 8, Batwing. Luke Fox is not the first Batwing, but for a lot of us, he is the coolest one. Being the son of Lucius Fox, Luke is a tech genius, graduating a year early with 2 degrees from MIT. His tech prowess really aids him, as he has an incredibly advanced suit of armor that does a lot. For example, the suit has a full faceplate, retractable cape, and an interior skin that monitors vital signs and enacts first aid, like hardening around broken bones to hold the bone in place and administering painkillers. It gives Luke a form of invisibility, detective vision, holograms, it can access the GCPD computers, features gyroscopic assist, a terrain map, shock charges, a kinetic patch, anti-personnel plates, and so much more. This is on top of Luke's training as an MMA fighter before his Batman training. Unfortunately, he just hasn't received a chance to shine on the spotlight yet, and primarily works as a supporting character in most Bat family storylines. Number 7, Batwoman. There have been a few different Batwomen over the years, but the one who will always stick in most fans' minds would have to be Kate Kane. As a child of military parents, Kate has a soldier's mentality, which just adds to her amazing fighting skills which she has cultivated over the years, not to mention a deep, intense desire to be the best she can possibly be. She received training from the Green Berets, Navy SEALs, and Special Air Service, and the villain Shadow helped train her in vigilantism. Following Batman's disappearance after the Infinite Crisis, Kate Kane assumed the Batwoman mantle and stepped in to become Gotham's protector. Kate has even displayed some superpowers. At one point, an injury left her able to detect electromagnetic fields. Don't ask me how that works, I don't know. And in the future Imperfect storyline, she even became a vampire. Number 6, Tim Drake. While there have been other Robins, Tim Drake is probably the best of the best. Of those who have come before, over the years, he isn't the most experienced, he isn't the strongest fighter, but his stealth, his tactics, and his detective skills are on par with Batman himself. Hell, the whole reason he even became Robin in the first place was because he literally figured out who Batman was all on his own. Drake ended up becoming Red Robin as he matured and is the most level-headed and intelligent member of the entire Bat family, but he isn't a pushover in a fight either. He has received training from obviously Batman, but also Lady Shiva, becoming another one of the Bat family's most gifted fighters. He is one of the most unique members of the Bat family, and his costume as Red Robin?
Number 5, Matrix. In an alternate universe where Kal-El had died as a child, there was no one to protect the Earth when Kryptonian supercriminals escaped from the Phantom Zone. No one except that Earth's Lex Luthor, who was not evil. Luthor used an artificial life form known as the Protoplasmic Matrix to create a champion for his planet who resembled his dead love, Lana Lang. He named her Matrix, and she became her Earth's Supergirl. When she was unable to defeat the Kryptonians, Luthor brought in New Earth's Superman to try and save the planet. They were unsuccessful, and this alternate planet Earth was left devoid of life. Superman took Matrix back to his Earth, where she became that continuity's Supergirl. She had many of the same powers as Superman, such as flight, speed, and strength, but lacked some of his other powers like heat vision and Arctic breath. She made up for these with other powers, such as the ability to shapeshift and turn herself invisible. Combined with her telekinesis and force field and energy projection abilities, she was an extremely powerful member of the Super family, although unlike other members, she was vulnerable to fatigue and was prone to identity crises that caused her to be taken advantage of by various supervillains. Number 4. Connor Kent, Superboy. Another hero who appeared during Superman's apparent death at the hands of Doomsday, Connor is a clone based on the genetic templates of Superman and Lex Luthor. Created by Cadmus for use in the event of Superman's death, this teenage clone was initially arrogant and difficult to deal with until he was taken under the wing of Steel and Matrix, who taught him the finer points of actually being a hero. Although he appeared to have all of the Man of Steel's powers, it was later revealed that his only power was tactile telekinesis. Although this ability was first introduced by John Byrne as one of Superman's minor powers that he uses to cause the objects he lifts to retain their structural integrity, allowing him to, say, pick up a plane without punching through it like a pin, Superboy also used this power to drag himself through the air, simulating flight, and to create a force field around himself, simulating invulnerability. He did eventually get real Kryptonian powers, which allowed him to do his super feats in a more straightforward fashion. Number 3. Kara Zor-El, Supergirl. Kara Zor-El is Superman's cousin. When the planet Krypton was destroyed, Kara's home, Argo City, was spared thanks to the efforts of her father, although due to radiation the city was slowly turning to kryptonite. When the city was deemed past the point of no return, her father pulled a page out of his brother's book and built a rocket, sending Kara to Earth. She became Supergirl and was placed in an orphanage by Superman as part of her cover, although she was eventually adopted by the Danvers family. Supergirl has all of the same powers as Superman, although if we apply the same logic from our Krypto entry, where proportionate size affects the abilities, her stature would make her slightly less strong than her cousin. Although, for a time she was more powerful, as she had all of these abilities as well as the powers of a Red Lantern ring, which would have all but guaranteed her the number 1 slot. However, since she no longer has the Red Lantern powers, she is stuck in the number 3 slot. But hey, at least she ranked higher than the horse. Number 2. Clark Kent, Superman. Look, if you've made it this far into such a niche video, I'm assuming you know who Superman is, so I'm just gonna rush through this one. Blah blah blah, dying planet. Blah 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 blah, rocket to Earth. Blah blah blah, Smallville. Blah 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 blah, up and away. Superman is the benchmark that all of the characters on this list are being compared to, so it only makes sense that he would rank so high. He has an incredibly vast set of powers that is even more impressive if you're looking at his pre-Crisis iteration. If anything, you're probably confused as to why he isn't number 1 on this list, but that spot is reserved for another Superman. Number 1. John Kent, the new Superman. The son of Lois Lane and Clark Kent, Jonathan Samuel Kent has been a hero since an early age, becoming Superboy when he was 10 years old. Although he initially struggled to control his powers, he became a great hero in his own right, often teaming up with his best friend, Damian Wayne, aka Robin, as the Super Sons. After an incident involving a black hole, he was imprisoned by the villain Ultraman for several years before he escaped and returned to Earth. Although it had been years for him, it had only been a few weeks on Earth. The now 17-year-old was tasked by his father with protecting the Earth while he went away to deal with an extraterrestrial threat, and John became the new Superman. Although one might assume that as someone who is half human and half Kryptonian, he would be weaker than full Kryptonians, tests that were run on him before his birth by Batman revealed that his unique physiology would actually be an advantage, giving him the potential to be even more powerful than the original Man of Steel. Another way that he is more powerful than Kal-El is his ability to become more involved in Earth's issues. As the original Superman explained to his son in Superman Son of Kal-El number 2, the reason he had refrained from involving himself more in many of Earth's issues and conflicts was that as an alien born on Krypton, he didn't feel he had the right to impose his beliefs on the people of Earth and should instead lead by example. He went on to say that as someone who was born on Earth, John could involve himself more and end up having more of a positive effect on Earth than even the original Superman.
Number 10. Ace the Bat Hound. Ace the Bat Hound was a German Shepherd that Robin and Batman teamed up with in Batman issue 92. The dog had been attempting to locate his owner when Batman and Robin found and rescued him. Bruce put an ad in the paper attempting to help the dog find its true owner. Shortly after, the dog ended up getting loose from the Batcave. Robin quickly made a disguise for the dog as Batman was concerned due to the ad that they'd placed in the paper and the distinct appearance of Ace that people might see them with him and connect the dots between Bruce Wayne and Batman. Eventually Ace was reunited with his owner again, but he would later return to team up with the dynamic duo once more in the future. More than once actually, I think. Number 9. Bat-Mite. Bat-Mite is a magical imp, similar to Superman's Mr. Mxyzptlk. He advocates that he is Batman's #1 fan, and as such pretty much exclusively wears his own little Batman costume. Unfortunately, he's usually not very powerful in a helpful sort of way. Batman came from a dimension where he and other imps idolized the heroes of Batman's dimension. As such, he usually would try to orchestrate events so that he could see Batman in action, usually creating problems for Batman to then solve and inevitably kind of annoying him. However, Bat-Mite never intended to annoy his hero and would generally stop when he realized he was being a nuisance. Similar to Mr. Mixie, Bat-Mite demonstrates magical powers which allow him to alter reality somewhat. He also shoots lightning bolts out of his fingers, and he can turn invisible. Number 8. Bluebird. Harper Row is a super skilled electrician who started fixing things from a young age after her and her brother were left alone, often abandoned by their father on a regular basis whom they lived with. Harper would run into Batman after he saved her and her brother Cullen from a large group of bullies. This inspired her to try and track Batman down, and she began looking for him online. She ended up assisting Batman and later saving his life with her own makeshift defibrillator, and after that she joined the Bat family, taking up the mantle of Bluebird. She would later leave her role as a vigilante to go back to school and study to become an engineer. But before that, she would demonstrate how skilled she was by constructing her own weapons and armor, which had its own anti-nanobot field. Number 7. Huntress. Whether we're talking about Helena Bertinelli or Helena Wayne, Catwoman and Batman's daughter, either way, Huntress tends to be considered a sometimes ally to Batman, and a powerful one at that. Helena Wayne has since been relegated to existing on Earth 2, and was raised by her parents there to become a hero. She decided to strike out on her own after the death of her mother, Selina Kyle. Being trained by both Batman and Catwoman makes her an insanely skilled combatant. Helena, like Helena Bertinelli of Prime Earth, is also known for her trademark crossbow, which is usually her preferred weapon of choice. Number 6. Spoiler. For the purpose of this list, we are going to talk about rebooted Stephanie Brown as opposed to the OG Stephanie Brown. The Stephanie Brown of Prime Earth is the daughter of villain Cluemaster, although growing up young, Stephanie was unaware of her father's villainous schemes. However, when she did find out, this revelation inspired her to become the hero known as Spoiler. Her goal was to spoil her father's evil plots, leaving clues so that the authorities could track him down. Red Robin ended up using his detective skills to track her down, and the two ended up teaming up. Over time, they both realized they had feelings for one another and began a relationship. Batman eventually revealed Tim's true identity to Stephanie and decided to start training her, which kind of caused a rift to develop between her and Tim Drake. Eventually, however, they would move past this. Stephanie would also receive training for her time from the Birds of Prey and her good friend Cassandra Cain, aka Orphan.
One of the oldest characters on this list, Clayface, or Basil Karlo, makes his first appearance in the original Detective Comics series in 1940. This villain is basically a jealous actor who becomes enraged when he isn't offered the lead role in a remake of a film he had formerly starred in. So he adopts the persona of the deformed Clayface, the character in one of his earlier horror films, as you do. You know, I know what you're thinking. This guy does not sound like a family man, but what's great about this character is that he is basically turned from the dark side by Batman and Batwoman and invited to join the Gotham Knights. While he's teamed up with the Bat family, he spends time with Dr. Victoria October, who develops a serum to cure him of his aggression and delusions. Unfortunately, however, Clayface takes over again while Basil Karlo is trying to cure a Gotham neighborhood from a man-made serum that turns them all into monsters, ironically. And Batwoman needs to shoot him. But right as he's lying there dying, he's cured of his monstrosity. But then he still dies. But if you ask me, I think this character's storyline is pretty unique, and he's one of the OG Batman characters, which gives him some points. Plus, I just think it would be so cool to see what visual effects artists do with the look of this guy if he appeared in the DCEU. Or maybe it would just be gross.
Number 4. Ghostmaker. Ghostmaker was actually a character that I was ready to dislike when he first appeared in the comics, and yet the more I got to know him, the more I really fell for this character. Ghostmaker is known as Koa Khan. He was a figure from Batman's past, a friend he had made while training out in the world when he was younger. Koa and Bruce seemed to want similar things, but each had their own approach and own motives for what they did as vigilantes. Ghostmaker is also somewhat psychotic. He doesn't seem to feel empathy or fear fear like most other people do, having more of a disconnect there. Although he does occasionally seem capable of empathy depending on the circumstances. He is just as deadly as Bruce and initially showed up in the pages of Batman as an antagonist who was striving to prove he was actually better suited to be the hero of Gotham than Batman was, and that his methods were actually more efficient and effective in comparison. In the end, however, he ended up joining forces with Batman, acting as his ally as he was welcomed into the Bat family fold.
Okay, at number 3, I've chosen to put a doggo because you don't often see animal characters worked into superhero movies tastefully. And I think the DCEU has a golden opportunity to give it a shot. Although maybe that's been proven a bad idea already with that new DC League of Super Pets movie coming out. I don't know. Personally, no. Too many superhero animals in one movie. I think if they added Ace into a more typical, serious DC storyline in tasteful ways, it would be a great challenge for the DCEU and give the bigger fans something to chew on. I mean, Ace isn't just a regular dog. He appears a few times with powers, like in Batman issue 133 when he's endowed with crypto-level powers for a time, or in Detective Comics 623 and 624 when he's portrayed as sort of a demonic beast with telepathy and an appetite for criminals. Or if they wanted, they could just keep him cute and innocent, like in Ambush Bug number 3 or Animal Man number 25. However he's portrayed, I think the DCEU or even the MCU haven't yet perfected the incorporation of animal characters, often coming off as corny or campy. But if it was done right, Ace the Bat Hound might be a great addition to a DCEU project, helping to ground the humanity of the characters or even enhance the world of the story as a superpowered pupper.
Number 2, Nightwing. One character that has become even more popular somehow in the last few years, despite already being one of the most well-known Bat family members, is Nightwing, aka Dick Grayson, aka Batman's first Robin, and really his first son in my heart. Adopted son, of course, but that isn't really significant when we're talking about the bond between Batman and Robin and Bruce and Dick Grayson. Well, I don't know if we'd see Nightwing as an adult or see him under his Robin mantle first. He certainly would be a cool one to have in the DCEU. We know we are getting Batgirl, aka Barbara Gordon, who's often known for being one of Dick Grayson's main love interests, and we already have Batman, so I think it might be cool to see a version of Nightwing who has already been Batman's partner and is breaking out on his own. After all, most of us are already familiar with the Batman and Robin story, so I think this is one where the origin might not need to be covered in depth for us to just jump right in.
Okay, finally, at number 1, we have Talia al Ghul, skilled supervillain and disgruntled ex to Bruce Wayne. Talia is a very complex character in the Batman family, having brought up Bruce's son Damian without him knowing for the most part, as I mentioned before. But the way that she ended up pregnant with Batman's son is even more sinister, having seduced Bruce Wayne into thinking he was in love, when really it was kind of just a ploy to merge the Wayne and the Al Ghul families. She just wanted an heir to put into the League of Assassins. That's like if somebody married you just to have a kid with you, dumped you, then put the kid into terrorist camp without you knowing, for like 8 summers in a row. It's just not good. I will say though that she is credited with taking down the Red Hood gang, but somehow that doesn't seem to redeem her training the League of Assassins or trying to take out Batman Incorporated and capitalism as a whole with the Leviathan organization. Talia al Ghul really poses a threat to Batman by taking advantage of his human emotions, sort of like Catwoman, except at least Catwoman seems to have a soft spot deep down. This just doesn't seem to be the case with Talia, who I think would add a lot to the DCEU.
Number 10, Signal. Duke Thomas's parents were victims of the Joker, but before that, years before, they helped Batman during his 0 year, rescuing him and taking care of him. After Duke's parents were driven insane by the Joker, he became a vigilante, joining the team known as the Robins. Batman later offered him the opportunity to join the Bat family, and Duke Thomas took up the mantle Signal. He also found out he had metahuman abilities, making him one of the few superpowered members of the Bat family. Signal's powers allow him to perceive light differently from most humans. He can view light at superhuman speeds, giving him sort of clairvoyant abilities. Number 9, Batwoman. Batwoman is Kate Kane, Batman's cousin in the comics. This version of the character was part of a redesign first appearing in 2006. She was originally a member of the military who was discharged after they learned she was gay. Since then, with the help of her father and sometimes the help of her cousin, Bruce Wayne, she became a vigilante going as Batwoman. Batwoman is not just a skilled combatant but also boasts of genius level intellect, like many of the other Batman family members, and can speak multiple languages. She has an indomitable sense of will that has allowed her to withstand supernatural and magical influences and is just as stealthy as the Bat himself. Number 8. Red Hood. Red Hood was originally Batman's second Robin. His civilian name is Jason Todd, and he even ended up being adopted by Bruce. During his time as Robin, he ended up leaving Batman and heading out on a journey to find his birth mother. On that adventure, which Batman ended up finding him and joining him on, he ran into the Joker. His mother sold him out, and the Joker then beat Jason Todd almost to death before blowing him and his mother up with a bomb. Batman arrived too late to save Jason or his mother, and this has remained a failure which Batman considers one of his greatest. Todd would later return as Red Hood, being resurrected in part and guided for a time by Talia al Ghul. When he did return to Gotham, it was originally as somewhat of a villain. However, Jason would eventually join the Bat family again, having more of an anti-hero status as someone who isn't opposed morally to killing those villains that he feels deserves it, and bringing his own brand of justice to Gotham. Jason isn't against using guns, but also doesn't need them to be a badass. He has also been shown to be highly skilled with the sword. Duke trained him after he was resurrected, also granting him the ability to be in control of his mind on a deeper level, giving him telepathic resistance and strong mind control defenses. Number 7. Damian Wayne. Damian Wayne is the son of Batman and Talia al Ghul, daughter of one of Batman's greatest enemies and sometimes ally, Ra's al Ghul. Or Ra's al Ghul, depending on how you like to say it. Damian Wayne was dropped on Batman's doorstep when he was just a child, and having been raised by his mother, a skilled assassin, and raised along with the League of Assassins themselves, he proved to be a problem and challenge to Bruce originally, as he had both a sense of entitlement surrounding his being a Wayne and had no aversion to killing people. Due to his training from a young age, he has proved his prowess and efficiency in combat as a deadly opponent to those villains he comes up against. He has made quick work of well-known Batman villains like Victor Zsasz and Man-Bat. He's also proved in the past to be a worthy adversary for other Robins as well, although now he sees them more like brothers, so that's good. Number 6. Orphan. One of the deadliest members of Batman's team, in the same vein of Damian actually, but without the attitude really. Orphan is Cassandra Cain. She is the daughter of David Cain and Lady Shiva and was rigorously trained from a young age to become a killing machine. She was not permitted to speak and never taught how to while growing up, instead communicating solely through body language, making her an expert combatant as she can use one's body language to read how and when they will attack. It's also very hard to intimidate Cassandra when it comes to the shock factor, as she was desensitized to death and violence from a very young age, being forced to witness multiple murders. She also has the potential to high-five you hard enough to break your hand. Fortunately, she's learned not to do that.
Number 5. Stephanie Brown. I feel like there are mixed feelings on Stephanie Brown out there. She has had interesting history as a member of the Bat family. Originally, Stephanie fought against her father, the villain Cluemaster, under the vigilante name Spoiler. She would usually fight alongside Tim Drake Robin, and they had a bit of a relationship going on too. Batman eventually trained her up some, and when Tim was forced to step down thanks to his father, Stephanie even took up the title of Robin. But this was pretty short-lived, as she actually did not make a very good Robin. She was constantly disobeying orders and pursuing criminals on her own, which eventually led to her downfall. Thankfully, she did survive and even went on to succeed Cassandra Cain, becoming the third Batgirl. Now, the two of them, Cassandra and Stephanie, are the duo known as the Batgirls. Number 4. Huntress. Like a lot of the Bat family superheroes, there have been a few versions of Huntress. The original was Helena Wayne, the daughter of both Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle. Unfortunately, that character has not remained the Prime Earth's Huntress. Instead, we now have Helena Bartonelli, the only surviving member of the Bartonelli family. She has dedicated her life to a vendetta on crime after her family was wiped out by being a part of that said crime. She was actually incredibly ruthless, very much willing to take the lives of criminals, which brought her and Batman to odds a few times. But with that famous determination, Batman was eventually able to sway her way of thinking just a little bit. She was also done really well in the Birds of Prey movie, if you haven't watched that. Number 3. Catwoman. Selina Kyle, while initially primarily a villain to Batman, has had a long, complex, and popular comic book history. As Batman's longtime on-again, off-again lover, she has a privileged place in the Bat family, but her allegiances are ultimately to herself, and her interests don't always align with Batman. Despite that, her tendency to usually do the right thing makes her a constant ally of Batman and his family. Her years of being a world-class criminal are thanks to her stealth, acrobatic ability, and mastery mastery of martial arts, which have in more recent years helped her to fight crime in Gotham, turning her from villain to anti-hero, who is now accepted as a member of Batman's close-knit family, not to mention the Birds of Prey, the Outsiders, the Gotham City Sirens, the Injustice League, and the Justice League. It's probably also worth mentioning she is often seen as the best match for Bruce Wayne in terms of a romantic partner. Number 2. Azrael. Another hero title with multiple bearers. This time though, it's a little different. The title of Azrael belongs to the chosen warrior of the Sacred Order of Saint Dumas, cloned and enhanced, subconsciously trained and conditioned, and raised to be a perfect soldier. The most famous and the one I'm going to talk about today is John Paul Valley. Once he became Azrael, Valley had encountered both Bruce and Alfred in Switzerland, saved them, and actually abandoned his own order for Bruce Wayne's moral values and went back to Gotham with the pair. He impressed Bruce Wayne so much within his time that when Bruce eventually had his back broken by Bane, it was Valley who Bruce chose to continue the Batman name. Unfortunately, this didn't go too well as he kind of lost his grip on reality, but he is an incredibly cool and capable character who has arguably gotten better in the more recent Prime Earth continuity. Number 1. Ghostmaker. Min Koa Khan, Ghostmaker, is essentially Bruce Wayne's rival from his formative years into the Batman mantle. Kinda like how in Pokemon games you always had a rival who you hate but kinda respect because they're always like challenging you and helping you to improve. That's Ghostmaker. Ghostmaker trained with a large number of the same mentors that taught Bruce Wayne, and it's arguable that Ghostmaker is equal to Batman. The difference between the two is mainly in ideologies. I mean, for starters, Ghostmaker is a psychopath. Bruce Wayne is not exactly psychologically sound, but he has a strong moral code, whereas Ghostmaker fights crime as if it's some kind of sport, and he has absolutely zero qualms with taking someone permanently out of the picture, operating mostly in Southeast Asia. He constantly used to try to get Bruce to see things from his point of view, which eventually led the two to agree to just stay out of each other's territory and out of each other's way. Luckily, he broke that pact after Joker War, and we got to see this guy come into Gotham disappointed with how Bruce had been handling things. Eventually though, they learned to work together.
Number 10. Streaky the Super Cat. When Linda Lee, aka Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl, started experimenting on a piece of kryptonite in an attempt to render it inert and harmless, she thought she had failed and threw the chemical doused stone into a nearby forest. Little did she know that her experiments had transformed the meteor into Kryptonite X. When her cat, Streaky, was wandering the woods, he came across the discarded kryptonite, and exposure to it granted him superpowers. Streaky used his powers mostly to have fun, but is capable of incredible feats of strength. Unfortunately, the effects of Kryptonite X are temporary, and Streaky needs to consistently re-expose himself to it in order to maintain his powers, or else he will return to being a regular cat. Streaky made 49 appearances in the Earth 1 continuity before being erased in the Crisis on Infinite Earths, although a gender-bent version of Streaky later appeared in the Prime Earth continuity in 2018's Super Sons Annual number 1. Number 9. Lana Lang, Superwoman. The childhood sweetheart of Clark Kent from his Smallville days, Lana Lang and Superman have remained close through the years, although they both went their separate ways with different romantic partners. When the New 52 version of Superman died, he released energy from his body that was absorbed by both Lois Lane and Lana Lang. Although they were given slightly different powers, Lana got the standard super strength, flight, and invulnerability, as well as the ability to convert solar radiation into electromagnetic energy. She could then manipulate this energy to shoot electric blasts and to become and travel as a bolt of lightning. She and Lois both took on the mantle of Superwoman, but this iteration of Lois was soon killed, leaving Lana as the only Superwoman. Although this weakness was eventually overcome, Lana suffered from a power instability that caused the use of her powers to slowly kill her, making her heroics come at a great personal cost for the character. Number 8. Comet the Superhorse. Our next entry takes us back to the days of ancient Greece, where a centaur named Byron fell in love with a powerful sorceress. He saved her life from an evil wizard and asked to be transformed into a human as a reward. The sorceress crafted a potion that would turn his horse half human, but the evil wizard switched the potion out with one of his own that did the reverse, permanently turning him into a horse. To soften the blow of this, the sorceress gave him another potion that gave him immortality, as well as the powers of telepathy, flight, invulnerability, super strength, and speed. speed. The wizard then trapped him on an asteroid where he remained until he was accidentally freed by Supergirl. Byron became obsessed with the Girl of Steel and returned to Earth to find her. She named the horse Comet, and the two worked together a few times before he eventually became human and began romancing Kara. Although he doesn't have the disadvantages that come with his powers like some of the previous entries on this list, he is missing some of the other signature superpowers that cause the other super family members to outrank him. Plus, there's no way I was giving a higher slot to a horse that wants to take a roll in the hay with its owner. Number 7. Krypto the Superdog. When Superman's father Jor-El discovered that Krypton would be destroyed, he came up with a plan to create a rocket that could safely transport his son to the planet Earth. Jor-El created a prototype of this rocket and decided to test it on the family dog, Krypto. Krypto's rocket veered off course and therefore did not arrive on Earth until Kal-El was a teenager. Krypto became Superdog and accompanied Superboy on many adventures, continuing to help even once the Boy of Steel had grown into Superman. This makes Krypto Superman's longest serving and most consistent sidekick across Superman's original continuity. Krypto has all of the powers of the Man of Steel, such as strength, speed, flight, invulnerability, super breath, and heat vision, but as he is a normal-sized dog, these abilities are proportionate to his size, making him less strong than humanoid Kryptonians. Although initially wiped from continuity in the Crisis on Infinite Earths story, a modern Krypto did eventually return to comics in early 2000s. Unlike his pre-Crisis counterpart, this Krypto did not have human intelligence and therefore was actually more dangerous, as he would attack and bite his enemies without attempting to rein in his strength, causing Superman to keep him at the Fortress of Solitude until he could properly train him. Okay, no more super pets. Promise. Number 6. Steel. When Superman died at the hands of Doomsday in the iconic Death of Superman arc, several different people took up the mantle to try and keep Metropolis safe. One of these heroes was John Henry Irons. A former weapons designer, Irons quit his job and took up work as a construction worker when he realized the damage his weapons were causing. After being rescued by Superman from a workplace accident, Irons decided to dedicate his life to making the world a better place. When Superman died, he constructed a steel supersuit for himself and began fighting crime in Metropolis. The suit allowed him to fly and enhanced his speed and durability, allowing him to hold his own in a fight with the Eradicator. If that were where the story ended, he may have been lower on the list, but years later, after suffering a horrible injury, he was surgically modified with alien tech which made him a literal man of steel and gave him powers such as energy absorption, mechanokinesis, and force field projection. He is also the only character on this list to have been played by Shaquille O'Neal in a movie.
Number 5. Spider-Ham. Yeah, I said what I said. It's actually quite popular now since John Mulaney voiced the character in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This Earth 8311 version of the web-slinger is of course named Peter Porker. Making his first debut in Marvel Tales starring Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham, in November 1983. Geez, that's quite the issue title. So we have Peter Porker, the pig, photographer, all that jazz. The villain on the issue is actually none other than Dr. Doom. Love the puns. Now, the best feature of Spider-Ham is that he of course has the spider story and powers, all that, but he also has what's called spider nonsense, which makes sense why John Mulaney was casted to voice him. He's the funniest person ever. This spider nonsense ability allows him to be more cartoon-like. The more danger he's in, it actually makes for a good time on screen and the page. You can see both of those happen and it's a treat. Number 4, Spider-Man Noir. This series ran from 2009 to 2010 and it was an alternate universe event. And this all-dark vibe worked well with Spider-Man the most. I mean, the 1930s, turns out, is a great setting for a Spider-Man story. It kind of feels like Watchmen. It's very dark and ominous. A lot of angles of characters looking down, you know? Spider-Man carries a Glock with him. You know, a spider Glock. He goes by the Spider-Man, which just sounds wrong, cool, a little wrong, a little right, I don't know. Basically, the story is the same, only Peter is raised during the Great Depression, and Uncle Ben was actually killed by the Goblin because Ben was an activist and protested against sweatshops. Attaboy, Uncle Ben. So Peter decides to get some dirty details and sneaks around a warehouse to see what Goblin's goons are up to. And while they're unloading stolen antiques, a spider statue antique breaks, and out come a bunch of spiders. One of them, of course, biting Peter, and Bob's your uncle, you know the rest. We got the privilege of seeing Nicolas Cage play this noir Spider-Man in Spider-Man Spider-Verse, and I like that casting choice. I mean, he's known to be pretty wacky in all of his roles, and with a backstory like that, Nick Cage is the guy to call. Number 3, Ben Reilly. This one shares the same world as our classic Peter Parker, Earth 616. He's also known as the Scarlet Spider. Ben Reilly made his comic book debut in Amazing Spider-Man 149. He's actually a clone of Peter Parker. That's right, the Clone Saga is the place to go for more of this guy. So when a clone of you exists, what do? Do you guys play video games, see movies? No, you make the clone go far away. The Jackal had created the Scarlet Spider clone using Peter's DNA. The Jackal's not a nice dude. He actually put the two in a terrible situation. He had a bomb and he put Ned's life on the line, making it so only one of the Spider-Men could survive. Now, it was believed that the Scarlet Spider had died, but he actually was just laying low out of New York City for like 5 years. He lived with the fake name Henry Jones as a janitor in a high school. That is until Aunt May's health started to decline. Then he returned to New York and told Peter all about his time. What a shock that must have been, right? And then when MJ was pregnant, Peter let Ben Reilly take the mantle of the web slinger. Pretty cool promotion. Number 2, Superior Spider. Again, we're at the 616 world of the web slinger. Starting in 2013, this is the outcome of the Dying Wish storyline. So Dr. Octavius planted his mind inside Peter Parker's. That's right, the two ended up switching bodies, little Freaky Friday style. It's like a freaky circle. Otto Octavius was dying when Peter visited, and he had no idea it would be his own deathbed that he was looking at. So, right when Otto Octavius switched into Peter's body, he discovered what it really meant to be a hero, and understood the whole "with great power comes great responsibility" message, having retained Peter's memories in his new skin suit. So he decides to just go for it, man, and just fight crime. Now, he wasn't as good as balancing the scales of justice as the original Webhead, so he ran into some troubles. He was violent in nature, and when it came to handling these criminals, I mean, Otto even enlarged the suit's talons to cause greater pain to his victims, and he modified the Nanospider's tracers that get ejected from the talons, and he made them so that they could paralyze the victim. Not too shabby, man. He thought he was doing the right thing, but his methods were just too dark. People noticed. Green Goblin and his army attacked, and it was then that Otto Octavius realized he wasn't meant to be the sticky hero he wanted to be. After coming to terms with the fact that Peter's consciousness still exists inside of him, he sacrificed himself, allowing Peter to become the Superior Spider-Man. And lastly, number 1, the 6-armed Spider-Man. This one actually is very similar to our usual Spider-Man, only a little different. He has 6 arms. It's like if I had 6, if I had like 2, 4 more coming out of here. It's crazy. Well, that's what happens when you ingest a chemical that's meant to neutralize your powers. As we see in almost every comic book ever, it doesn't go as planned. He grows 4 extra arms. Now he's got 6 in total. See, I'm unreal at math. What's up, Mr. Lake? The only cure to save this Earth 92100 Spider-Man's dilemma is in Michael Morbius's blood. Now, I wanted to save this one last because I think this has to be the most bizarre, but definitely the most interesting in a way. This 6-armed spider, or also known as the Man Spider, would absolutely kick ass in our world. This dude reminds me of that Pokemon Machamp. He's got like the 4 arms and he just punches people. If they fought, I feel like that would be a bigger deal than Mayweather and McGregor. Straight up, I would pay all my money. It's always nice to see your favorite superhero get a nice upgrade. Like in the MCU, Spider-Man has those iron spider legs now to help aid him in battles. When he was overwhelmed in Endgame, he just activated instant kill mode, and then the other arms started jabbing, poking out eyes. It's cool to see something like this on screen that kind of came from the comics. It's nice.
Number 10, Orphan. Sure, we've already gotten a version of Cassandra Cain with the Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey film, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love that movie. It's one of my all-time favorite movies, hands down, and not even just within superhero film rankings, just in general, I really love that movie. And I enjoyed the version of Cassandra that we got in that film, but she wasn't really much like the version of Orphan and Cass Cain that we are more familiar with from the comics. And it might be cool to see another version of that character that offered something more in line with Cassandra's tragic backstory, her level of shyness, as well as her deadly moves. I don't know what this is. Not deadly, I'll tell you that much. In the comics, Orphan is the moniker for Cassandra, the daughter of David Cain and Lady Shiva. A deal was struck between her parents for David to end up with full custody of Cassandra, so he might train her to be one of the deadliest assassins and weapons in the world. He did just that, but fortunately, one day Cassandra escaped her evil father and found her way to Gotham. There she would end up meeting Batman and become his ally, eventually joining the Bat family and becoming known as Batgirl.
At number 9, we have Lucas Fox, aka Batwing. Now, Luke isn't actually a blood relative of Bruce Wayne, obviously, but he joins the Bat family through training and hard work. Much to the chagrin of his wealthy father, Lucas Fox uses his extreme intellect not to climb corporate ladders, but to prepare himself for the sought-after position of Batwing. He spends his time cage fighting, trying to get Batman's attention, and gearing up for the chance that Batman offers him a position as Batwing. This comes at a perfect time because David Zavimbe had just retired from taking on the mantle, so Lucas gets the job. He's first brought on as a sort of tech support for the Batman family, repairing the Belfi headquarters as well as disabling a mini nuke that was gonna destroy the whole city. So when he's officially induced into the family, he's finally allowed to help Batman in efforts like taking down the Penguin. But his strongest suit tended to still be as a tech expert, designing a new Batsuit for John Paul to save him from his insanity and fall to the spirit of Azrael. He's a real asset to the Batman family, and we hope to see him represented in some way in coming DCEU projects.
Number 8. Azrael. Azrael was once the hero that Bruce Wayne most trusted to take his place as Batman. He left Gotham in Azrael's, aka John Paul Valley's, hands after his back was broken by Bane. Azrael had a hard time letting go of the mantle though when Bruce miraculously managed to heal and returned to take back the cape and cowl. But he's been an ally to Batman again in the past, despite how everything ended in more of a fight that time around. Azrael believed the Order of Saint Dumas, who he fought for, was just initially, but came to question the Order over time. And more than that, Jean Paul in the past has also had to question his own sanity as well. He's also an interesting one to have as a part of the Bat family in the DCEU, because if they decided to take some influence from his character in the White Knight universe, he could be a part of the Bat family in more ways than one, as in that universe he is a true Wayne as well.
At number 7, we have Damian Wayne. This character would be a great addition to any Batman movie or show, not only because he's one of Batman's most recent Robins, but also because he's Bruce Wayne's son. And what makes things even more spicy is that he's basically evil. I mean, his mother is a supervillain, Talia al Ghul, and daughter to another one of the world's greatest supervillains, so villainy kinda runs in the family. And when Damian Wayne is being brought up by his mother, it's kept from Bruce that he even exists for most of his upbringing, which is a tragedy because Bruce probably wouldn't have approved of Damian training in the League of Assassins, becoming a skilled assassin at a young age. When Damian is brought to Batman's attention, however, things don't get much better, as Damian has a much more aggressive disposition than his father. In the Injustice storyline, Damian even betrays Batman by teaming up with an evil Superman and facing off against the whole Justice League. Although there are moments where Damian shows heroic tendencies, he's not the most cooperative sidekick to Batman. And I just think that all these themes of family drama, power struggle, and good versus evil would just be great additions to any new project in the DCEU.
Number 6. Red Hood. Obviously, Jason Todd has a lot of fans when it comes to him being kind of like the middle child of the Bat family. He's more of a loner than most of the other Bat family members, and that's really saying something, because this is a family that includes the Dark Detective himself as its patriarch. Bruce himself isn't always known for being the most team-oriented or most cuddly of characters. Jason Todd himself has been through a lot and is a complex character. He's been a sidekick, a hero, a villain, an anti-hero, and he's been through a lot along the way. There are many fans out there who would love to see him join the DCEU and take to the big screen because of this, and I think the character is continually building popularity in shows like Titans just proves how well he can transcend to live-action mediums.
Number 5. Supergirl. Kara Zor-El. Much like how Krypto was sent to Earth, Superman's older cousin, Kara Zor-El, was also sent to Earth. She was sent from the dying planet Krypton, of course, to protect Clark Kent. Well, rather, Kal-El. But of course, as fate would have it, she was knocked off course by the explosion of her home planet. Bummer. So she ended up in the Phantom Zone. Now, in the Phantom Zone, you can stay there for decades and not age, and that's actually what Kara did. After her pod finally escaped, she landed on Earth and soon joined the Danvers family. Imagine a 13-year-old girl just falling out of the sky. Like, how many are there? Holy shit. Now, of course, if you want to see her in action, you can catch the hit show Supergirl. Only 3 different actors have played her, the most recent and current run being portrayed by Melissa Benoist. If you start binging it now, you can probably catch up for the 6th and final season that is supposedly airing next year. But if you want to start reading from her comic book origins, you can find her first debut in Action Comics issue 252. Number 4. Power Girl. Zara Zor-El is Earth 2's older counterpart of Supergirl, hence why I put her here in the list. Wild, right? He's crazy. If it's confusing, just know that in order to tell the difference, it's spelled with a letter L rather than the other Supergirl, who is EL. So making her first comic book debut back in All-Star Comics 1976, Kara Zor-El, or rather Power Girl, was sent to Earth the same time as Superman, but her ship was way slower, so she arrived much later. So that was their way of sneaking another character in there and trying to make it make sense. And it worked. We bought it. I'm a fan of Power Girl. She's a badass. This girl doesn't take anything. Her origins have changed multiple times, like now she's Atlantean, and she in fact can hold kryptonite too. Doesn't hurt her. So that's wild. Like I said, badass. If you're wondering what does hurt Power Girl, the answer is wood. Yeah, she doesn't do too well against natural elements of Earth, so if you're thinking about doing a camping trip, I don't think Kara Zor-El will be down for said trip. Number 3, Nightwing, Lor-Zod. He is the son of General Zod and Ursa. They gave birth to him in the Phantom Zone, and you guessed it, he arrived by pod to Earth. The classic. It's like Uber. Like, hey, you getting a pod? Yeah, I'm gonna get a pod. In like 2 decades though. I'll be a little bit late. So this young boy was lifting TV sets over his head, and everybody was soon looking his direction, being like, how is this possible? So the Department of Metahuman Affairs, or DOMHA, that one doesn't work, decided to take the boy to a secret place in Washington to do tests and all that jazz. But they didn't tell Superman. Eeks. So he was pretty pissed. He broke Lor-Zod out and then convinced Lois to adopt the young boy, naming him Christopher Kent. And yes, he's also immune to kryptonite, but of course he's got the superpowers to go along with it. The most unique ability Christopher Kent has is that of telekinesis. And number 2, Mon-El. When Mon-El arrived to Earth, people of course assumed it was a brother of Superman or something along those lines. I mean, these guys are falling out of the sky every other day. I mean, what else is new? So yeah, he's got some similar powers as the Man of Steel, but the thing that makes him stand out the most is the fact that this guy's weakness is lead. Yeah, like pencil lead. Lead. Never ask this guy to take notes. You might literally kill him. Making his comic book debut in Superboy Volume 1, Issue 89 in 1961, he's also known as Lar-Gand. He's immune to kryptonite, of course. I mean, he's got the lead problem, so you can't make him weak to kryptonite. That would just be unfair. Mon-El got his name simply by the day of the week he arrived. He arrived to Earth on a Monday, so Clark Kent named him Mon-El. The L, of course, matching Superman's maiden name. And finally, number 1, Superman. Of course, I'm saving the man himself for our last spot. There's been so many movies and TV shows for Batman and Superman that at this point, it becomes a full-on conversation when it comes to who plays the Caped Crusaders on the big screen the best. See, I personally think Henry Cavill is a great Superman, and it's honestly a shame that he's not down to reshoot footage for the Justice League Snyder Cut. I mean, I get it, it's probably not easy to wake up early, get ripped, and do stuff like that. I mean, you know, you have a job, you're doing other gigs, but like all that hype around the director's cut, just throw a cape on, go punch some stuff, we'll do the rest, we'll CGI the rest. His origins go back to Action Comics #1, way back, I'm talking 1938. That's like as old as my grandma or someone's grandma, probably. So after his homeworld Krypton was dying, Kal-El was sent to Earth after being adopted by the Kent family. He soon discovered that he was able to run faster than a train. So something must be up at this point. The Kents told Clarky that people will be afraid of him if he doesn't just play it cool, you know? I mean, we saw this in Man of Steel when he pulls the bus out of the water. The kids weren't too chill about that. Grateful, but also super questionable. His foster parents, of course, gave him the name Kent. His foster mother Martha and father Jonathan. Look, a lot of people give Batman vs Superman a hard time because of the whole Martha turning point at the climax. Look, I personally like that moment. Everybody always says, oh, why wouldn't he say mom? Why did he say Martha? That's weird. No, why would a dying man be like, save my mom, her name's Mom? No, he's a detective. I'm sure Superman had the idea that maybe, just maybe, Batman would be able to figure out that Martha Kent is in some sort of trouble. Or at least there's a better odds than if he said mom. Plus, this Dark Knight Returns type version of Batman that we saw probably needed to hear his mom's name to remind him why he put on the cape in the first place. So let's stop arguing about that scene now. I think it's fine. It's fine. Let it go. And of course, as we also saw in that movie, Superman's main weakness is kryptonite. And Batman almost ends the Man of Steel himself by using a kryptonite spear. But of course, Superman's greatest foe is none other than Lex Luthor, who I'm going to save for another video because that guy is a piece of work.
Number 10, Ace the Bat Hound. Of all the Bat family pets, Alfred the cat Bat Cow, Titus, Ace came first, and he wasn't just another pet of Damian Wayne. Not that there's anything wrong with that, I'm just saying. Now, Ace seems to actually be a name shared by many dogs who have worked with Bruce Wayne and his companions. When he first appeared in Batman number 462 in May of 1991, Ace was a shepherd type, and that's been the most popular breed, usually a German shepherd, but he was also a mastiff for a long while. The most recent and popular German shepherd, Ace the Bat Hound, was an attack dog for the Joker and was not treated very well. Luckily, this very good boy was taken in by Alfred and the Bat family. Number 9. Jarro. I love Jarro. If you have seen the newest Suicide Squad movie, the one with Idris Elba and John Cena, even though you can't actually see him, then you know who Starro is. He's that massive, terrifying starfish alien conqueror. He's actually one of the Justice League's earliest villains, and he poses a massive threat as he can use his drones to take control of an entire population, and he has subdued members of the Justice League multiple times. Well, Starro got ripped into pieces, and Batman took a piece and grew it into another version of Starro who was loyal to him and named it Jarro. It has all the abilities that Starro has and has also put the League under mind control, but in order to save them. It also calls Batman Dad, and it's just the most adorable thing I have ever seen. Number 8. Bluebird. I think Bluebird, or Harper Row, is looked over quite a bit when we talk about the Bat family, and honestly, it's understandable. She did actually step down from her hero mantle in order to get her electrical engineering skills accredited, which is honestly the most real-world reason for someone to stop being a superhero. But it was probably the smart thing to do because Harper Row here is a whiz with electronics and electrical engineering. She has used her natural aptitude to help both her and her brother survive, as well as assisting Batman multiple times without him asking, improving upon some of his tech, and helping out Red Robin on a few occasions too, using her homemade advanced tools and weaponry. She's actually pretty cool in my opinion, although she did have a brief time being around. If you like comic books and superheroes in general, then you are sorely missing out if you are not subscribed to us here at Top 10 Nerd. We got lists, explanations, shorts, and we're constantly trying to find new ways to talk about your favorite comic book characters. Number 7. Lucius Fox. There are a few people that, without which, Bruce Wayne would not be where he is or able to do the things he does. Among this very select group would be Lucius Fox. First appearing in 1979, Lucius was the second in command at Wayne Enterprises. He is an incredibly adept businessman known throughout the world, but he is also, privately, Bruce Wayne's private business manager, financial executive, and not to mention, armorer. And if that weren't enough, when Bruce Wayne decided to resign, Lucius was promoted to CEO of Wayne Enterprises and the Wayne Foundation. His power definitely comes from the power of the company, his connection to Bruce, his sons Luke and Jace, who isn't a member of the Bat family, and he does also have a military background, so there's that. Power isn't only about how big your muscles are. Number 6. Alfred. Look, I know he's number 6 on the second part of this series. Alfred is basically the patriarch of this family. He has a position that stands above pretty much everyone else. No one messes with Alfred Pennyworth, but that isn't because he will bring you down. It's because anyone who messes with Alfred brings on the wrath of the entire Bat family. If you hurt Alfred, you are simply done living. If Bruce Wayne doesn't crack and do it to you, someone else in this family will. And yes, before I hear it in the comments, yes, Alfred used to be in the army and was even trained as a member of the MI5 Nemesis program, and he has given Bruce a bit of a beatdown before, but I don't believe Bruce or any member of the Bat family could ever actually bring themselves to try and actually fight Alfred. He cares for them all, and they would all be lesser without him.
Number 5. Batgirl. Batgirl isn't even just a Batgirl. She has been known by both the Batgirl mantle and her codename Oracle, a genius hacker, computer whiz, and master data sleuth for Batman and the leader of the Birds of Prey after she became paralyzed by the Joker from the waist down when he shot her through the spine. She not only has a brilliant mind, but she also is a skilled combatant. Even before she was Batgirl, she was known as a driven and determined young woman by those she trained with. Before even becoming Batman's protege, she studied martial arts and ballet, both of which helped to provide her with the strength, agility, and flexibility needed later on in combat. Bab's reflexes are so sharp we've even seen her dodge bullets in combat, and easily disarm opponents who are armed with guns. Truly a Bat family member that Batman would be proud of. Even when she felt shame surrounding letting herself be shot by the Joker, Batman was still by her side. She was worried he would also be disappointed in her like she kind of was with herself, but he only expressed concern for her well-being. Barbara rarely, if ever, disappoints Batman. Number 4. Red Robin. Tim Drake is known for being one of the smartest Robins around. He is a brilliant detective, in fact so good that he is expected to be on the same level as one of the world's greatest detectives, Batman himself. In fact, it's also been implied that Tim Drake will likely one day surpass Batman when it comes to his detective skills. The way that he originally became Robin was through discovering the secret identities of both Batman and Robin, who was Jason Todd at the time. Following Todd's death, Drake noticed that Batman seemed to need a Robin to help give him balance, and ended up convincing the Dark Knight to take him under his wing, making him the third Robin of Batman. Number 3. Nightwing. Dick Grayson has taken Batman's place before, and what's more, he was fairly good at it. In fact, he's probably one of the most likely currently to be the person to take over for Batman, as long as he's got his memories, which have been gone more often than not in recent years. Dick was Batman's first Robin, and through the comics we've seen him become one of Batman's steadfast allies, almost appearing like an adoptive son to Bruce, destined to take up the mantle of Batman one day. Well, actually, maybe, if we're lucky, and the writers let it happen, we'll actually get to see him take up the mantle on a more permanent level. That'd be pretty cool. Number 2. Azrael. After Batman's back was broken by Bane, Sean Paul Valley was the one who Bruce turned to take up the Batman mantle in his absence. Jean Paul proved a powerful force when it came to his time as Batman, so powerful in fact that it took Batman, Robin, and Nightwing to take him down. The final showdown of course came down to Azrael and Batman, and in the end, Jean Paul surrendered the armor, cape, and cowl. Number 1. Alfred Pennyworth. Alfred might not have any superpowers, but he really doesn't need any to be considered one of the most powerful and influential members of the Batman family. Alfred is Batman's butler, his guide, his father figure, and has saved him in more than one way many times throughout the comics. As we can see currently in the Joker War story arc from the 2016 Batman run, which will be ending shortly, Batman is lost without Alfred. Alfred also has tons of past military experience and was a professional actor, and was sought after by the Wayne family to take his father Jarvis's place as their butler. In the Injustice series, Alfred also reveals there is no length he would not go to when it comes to protecting Bruce Wayne, who he thinks of as a son. After Superman breaks Batman's back, it's Alfred who forces him to back down, ingesting a pill which grants him superhuman strength and durability, allowing him to break Superman's nose. Yeah, Alfred's a badass.
Starting off with number 10, Ghost Spider. Yeah, on Earth 65. So of course we have to start with one of my favorites, Gwendolyn Stacy of Earth 65, that is. Yeah, very important. There's many other Earths. I'll get to that later. She has arguably the coolest suit. I mean, right off the bat, the hood, the white hood with the pattern on the inside of the hood, like, that's so sick. I think it's a crowd favorite when it comes to suits. She made her first appearance as Spider-Woman in Edge of Spider-Verse number 2, and then made her first appearance just last year as Ghost Spider in Spider-Man Enter the Spider-Verse issue 1. A lot of spiders in there. I like Ghost Spider better. I think that's a way cooler name in my opinion. After her mother's death, she was raised by her father George. She's a drummer too actually, which is kind of a fun little detail. She's even in a band called the Mary Janes. Pretty mint name if you ask me. So of course she was bit by the radioactive spider, such as Earth 616's Spider-Man, which is our Earth. After that, she was given the cool outfit and web shooters by a retired Jan Van Dyne. How fun. Gwendolyn Stacy can also travel between dimensions with a pendant that serves as a modified dimensional travel watch. So that's kind of neat. Also, a big thing that I love about this version of the web slinger, she was actually blamed for the death of Earth 65's Peter Parker. So that right off the bat has a lot of character development that you can play with. And number 9, Venom. Of course he's part of the Spider-Man family. Look at the dude. He's got the this, he's got the this, he's got the this. Making his debut in Amazing Spider-Man 299, we have Eddie Brock, aka Venom. Venom is a symbiote from the Clintar race. After making its way to Earth, it eventually wound up in the hands of Spider-Man. This didn't last too long because the symbiote found its ideal host, who happened to be Edward Brock. Now, Eddie had visited Our Lady of Saints Church to beg God for forgiveness before ending his own life. It's actually really tragic. Then this alien symbiote bonded with him mentally and physically. Now, at this time, Peter was there trying to get rid of this damn thing, so that scene in Spider-Man 3 was actually spot on. Maybe the only enjoyable part of that movie, besides the cool dance moves that Tobey Maguire gave us. Those were great. Now, because it had originally bonded with Spider-Man, it basically was another Spider-Man. Like, it moved from that host to Eddie with that Spider-Man knowledge. He gets the power Spider-Man used and also some memories. It's actually why Eddie Brock knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Fun fact. And number 8, Ultimate Spider-Man. Earth 1610 is home to one of our favorites, who we might finally be getting to see on the big screen in the next live-action Spider-Man film. He was the center of attention for the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. He is awesome, and he's even getting the spotlight in Spider-Man Miles Morales coming to PS5 soon, and I can't wait at all. His first appearance was in Ultimate Fallout issue 4 back in 2011, so after Peter Parker died, somebody had to step up. The radioactive spider ended up finding its way to Miles, of course, and when it comes to powers, Miles is super unique. He has natural electricity in his body, and he's able to control it. It's called a Venom Blast, or a Venom Beam. He rocks both. Shameik Moore did an amazing job of voicing the character in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and rumor has it, Miles Morales has actually already been casted in the MCU. They're just keeping it on the low. Who do you guys think will don the iconic suit? Let us know in the comments below, because we're making bets here at the office. Number 7, Spider-Man 2099. We go now to the future. Ooh, rainbow neon colors. The year is 2099. Miguel O'Hara has donned the suit at this time. His DNA was actually biologically mixed with a spider's DNA, so a bit different than our usual spider bite scenario. He worked at Alchemax and was pressured by the company to test genetic coding, and he tried it on Mr. Sims, and it didn't go so well because, you know, he died. Miguel then was poisoned by Tyler Stone with a fatal drug named Rapture, and Miguel ended up relying on the drug, so he tried to genetically fix his body. This of course went south, and ultimately was the reason he got his spider powers in this universe. Earth 928 to be specific. This dude is overpowered as hell, so yeah, he has the usual spider abilities, but he also has a few other tricks up his future sleeve, like telepathy, for example. His first issue was back in 1992, and it was simply titled Spider-Man 2099 issue number 1. So if you saw the glimpse of him in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, there you go. You got like 46 issues to read this weekend. You'll be busy. Number 6, Zombie Spider-Man. So this series was only 5 issues and it dropped in 2005, and it is so wild. That's one of my faves. Here we go. So this series takes place on 2149 in this world that is full of zombies. Yeah, we love zombies. Zombie Spider-Man is like the only normal-ish zombie. Like, he has feelings. He can talk. He knows what he's doing, kind of. He doesn't just walk around and bite people's head off. Like, Aunt May walks in and he's eating MJ. Like, he's still a nice Peter Parker. He's like, oh, please, MJ, go in the bathroom or something. Get out of here. He can't control himself. I mean, it's not his fault, and he realizes that. I had to include this in the list simply because it's awesome. Plus, we've already had our first look at Marvel's Zombies that's said to come out as an episode of What If on Disney Plus in the near future. I'm still not over that zombie scene from Far From Home with Iron Man when he's crawling out. Disney's just not afraid of scarring kids, eh?
Number 5, Jason Todd, the black sheep of the Bat family. While Tim Drake is easily the most intelligent, Jason Todd is easily the most brutish. He's a powerful heavy hitter, aggressive, and at the peak of human conditioning. Red Hood is a fearsome challenger, but when Jason Todd first popped on the scene as Batman's second ever Robin, fans hated him. It's one of the big reasons that he was very shockingly taken away in the A Death in the Family storyline. Luckily for everyone, he was granted a second shot at life thanks to the Lazarus Pits, which also granted him near immortality and enhanced regeneration properties. Jason Todd has gotten a much better second wind under the Red Hood. Number 4, Batgirl. For a long while, Barbara Gordon was one of DC's strongest female characters, and even after Joker disabled her, her sheer determination still allowed her to become more powerful and one of the most powerful members of the Bat family as Oracle. Before becoming Batgirl, Barbara trained in Judo, Kung Fu, Eskrima, and Karate, among others, and after her paraplegia, her skills were only further honed by Kung Fu master Richard Dragon. As Oracle, she was the Bat family's girl in the chair, and she was invaluable in that position, at times being the literal glue that held together the Bat family. Number 3, Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson was the first Robin, and people loved him. He was an incredibly popular character, and the duo of Batman and Robin was iconic. But when Richard moved on and became leader of the Teen Titans, not to mention becoming Nightwing, he elevated to a whole other level. He has fought threats not just outside Gotham, but outside this planet. His years and years over other members of the Bat family give him a definitive edge that puts him almost on on par with Batman himself. He's incredibly talented as a crime fighter, so much so that he has even elevated into the role of Batman himself on a few occasions. He is looked up to by all other members of the Bat family, is one of the best acrobatics in the DC universe, not to mention among the greatest fighters, and he's also my favorite. Number 2, Cassandra Cain. Dick Grayson may very likely be the best of the best in the Bat family, but there are 2 others who would still beat him down. One of which would be Cassandra Cain. She's the daughter of the most dangerous woman in the world, Lady Shiva, as well as the original orphan, David Cain. She was brought into the world and trained by the League of Assassins to be the one who is all and the ultimate bodyguard for Ra's al Ghul. She received even more training from Bronze Tiger, Merlin the Archer, Batman himself, Lady Shiva, Oracle, and Black Canary. She is scary. She has near metahuman levels of speed, immense resistance to pain, and she can read people's body language, which allows her to mimic anyone's fighting styles and predict their next moves. Literally a terrifying human being. Number 1, Batman. If you expected anyone else to take the number 1 spot, then just get the heck out of here. Go on. Go. He is the whole reason the Bat family even exists in the first place. He has trained every member to wind up on the group. He calls the shots. He is the Alpha. He is the Omega. For another member to wind up taking the Batman mantle is the ultimate honor, and very, very few have actually done it. He is the world's greatest detective. If it weren't for Cassandra Cain, he would easily take the title of world's greatest hand-to-hand fighter, and despite Cassandra's skills, he could probably still do it. His force of will alone is enough to land him near the top of this list. Batman is arguably one of the greatest superheroes, and as a regular dude who stands among gods, he has reason to hold that title.
Number 10, Cal Kent. Yep, kicking off the list at number 10, we got Cal Kent, aka the future Superman. Yeah, I said future Superman. You didn't, your ears work fine. Coming from the 853rd century, making his debut in JLA, issue 23 back in 1998, this Superman looks very similar to our normal Superman that we would normally recognize. And he includes all the Kryptonian powers as well, but he is from the future. So he's got some extra powers, which is pretty scary considering Superman is already pretty overpowered. He can even punch through time. Guys, he can punch through time. He has telepathy, he has telekinesis, and super thought? Yeah, that's right. He can figure out a bunch of math problems at the same time. That's the future brain right there. Oh, and also, don't even get me started on Force Vision. That's just unfair, to say the least. And number 9, Superwoman Lois Lane. First making her comic book debut in 1938 in Action Comics, number 1, Lois Lane is the love interest of Supes himself. She was a reporter for the Daily Planet. On a different number of occasions, Clark's one true love, Lois Lane, has actually gained his abilities and taken on the mantle of, yep, you guessed it, Superwoman. Most notably, among these was when Superman created the exogenes formula. That was designed so that Lois could pretty much feel the same things that Superman was feeling. So if he was flying and doing some Superman stuff, she would feel that too. They were like connected. She was actually able to replicate Kal-El's abilities at the same power levels because the number of times she's been powered up. She doesn't really make the top of the list, but she's definitely still up there and counts as a superhero or another version of Superman. So we can't not include her, obviously. Number 8, Superboy. Also known as Connor, or even cooler, Con-El. He made his debut in 1993 Adventures of Superman issue 500. Superboy was created to essentially be a replacement for Superman. So after Superman died fighting Doomsday, Project Cadmus then used Kryptonian DNA to make Superboy. They wanted a new hero. They wanted to feel safe, so why not just make a clone of the caped hero? Not a bad idea at all. Cadmus wasn't able to get Superman's DNA, so they grabbed a human clone and made it look like him. Cause, I mean, you know, close enough. Well, it turns out if you put a clone near the grave of a dead Supe, you get some powers. See, Superman's bioelectric aura was absorbed by the clone, and thus was given tactile telekinesis, which means you can simulate the powers of Superman. For a small amount of time, he even rocked the high-tech visor to solve that problem, even giving him heat and x-ray vision. The whole t-shirt, the goggles, it's a good combo, I dig it. He looks cool. Number 7, Superboy. But this time, it's Jonathan Samuel Kent. Cool middle name too. My middle name's Douglas, and that's, you know, my middle name's Douglas. He's fairly new to the game, only making his first appearance in Convergence Superman issue 2, and he's actually going to be in a live-action show titled Superman and Lois. coming out on the CW next year, or hopefully next year, with the world being the world. With Jordan Elsass playing none other than Jonathan Kent himself. And we can't wait. The creator of the character, Dan Jurgens, says that Jonathan looks like Clark Kent, but he has the lowest Spitfire attitude and inquisitiveness. And if you've seen Little Fires Everywhere, you should be pretty excited to see him play the character. I think my favorite thing about this dude is his disguise. He just rocks the shades and baseball cap and becomes more cool somehow. And his actual outfit, don't even get me started. The ripped jeans, the red sneaks. This was like every guy that I went to high school with. Like I saw him and I'm like, oh, that looks like Brad, or Mike, or Dylan, or Dave, or Tom. The hoodie slash cape situation too, nice touch. Even cooler about this guy is that he's friends with the other super son, Damian Wayne. They got on each other's nerves, sure, but that's what happens when two dudes are being dudes. They always end up teaming together when it mattered anyway, so you gotta love Jonathan Kent. And number 6, super pets. Of course, I have to include the dog. I mean, whenever people would ask me about my family members, I would always include the little doggos. Crypto was actually the test pilot for the ship that carried baby Kal-El to Earth. Kind of like when humans launched that space dog, Laika, into orbit in 1957. The only difference was that Crypto, super dog, his ship went off course, and the dude ended up drifting into space for years. That's even longer in dog years. I mean, poor dude. I'd be so bored. No milk bones on board or anything for this guy? Come on. That's a lie. I actually really want to go to space. But don't worry, Crypto's ship ended up finding Kal-El's ship after it landed on Earth. So when Kal-El was a teenager, this dog just landed from space. That would be a cool birthday gift. Here's a space dog. Go check your front lawn. So you're probably thinking, does this dog also have superpowers? Yes, of course, or he wouldn't be on this list. If for some reason you only want to read about Crypto, you can start with Adventure Comics issue 210. And if that wasn't weird enough, there's also a super cat in the mix. That's right, Streaky the super cat. The two pets ended up joining the League of Super Pets, which is pretty hilarious and kind of cool. I'd watch that series. If that was a Netflix series, I'd dive in.
Number 5, Carrie Kelly. Carrie Kelly is Batman's Robin from Earth 31. Unlike most Robins, Carrie did have parents, but they were very neglectful of her. She was saved by an elderly Batman one night who had returned from retirement. Inspired by the rescue, she bought herself a Robin costume and set out to track Batman down, armed with a slingshot and some firecrackers. Batman would take her on as Robin, but would also constantly threaten to fire her from her mantle for disobeying him. But Carrie showed so much promise, he could never bring himself to truly ever follow through. Carrie Kelly would help Batman defeat Joker when he resurfaced, and in the future would go on to become Catgirl, becoming a hero in her own right in Dark Knight Strikes Again. Number 4, Batwing. Batwing, like his father Lucius Fox, has a gifted intellect. He graduated MIT with degrees in engineering and business management, following in his father's footsteps, and like his father, became a coveted businessman for hire. Everyone everywhere wanted him to work for them, including his dad. Lucas Fox, however, was not interested in any of this. Instead, Luke turned to cage fighting and boxing, training in MMA, hoping to garner attention from Batman and be recruited into Batman Incorporated. Luke's dreams would come true, and he would be recruited to take up a mantle as the new Batwing and become the Batman of Africa. He is not only a skilled fighter with a brilliant mind, but Luke is also a great leader, like Batman and like his father, and is considered a tactical genius. Number 3, Jarro. Jarro is Batman's adopted son. He is genetically related to Starro, as he came into existence by forming from a surviving tissue sample the Batman had of the evil alien being known as Starro. He gets his name because that sample was kept in a jar. Jarro is not only capable of flight and telepathy, but he also has genius level intellect. Although technically Jarro comes from the supremely evil Starro, he loves Batman like a father, and there is nothing he wouldn't do for him. Also, I just love Jarro, he's super cute, even though he's only been in a few things. Number 2, Catwoman. Catwoman over the years has been a powerful ally to Bruce and occasionally posed as a powerful villain as well. Selina and Bruce may not have ended up tying the knot, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't consider Catwoman an extended member of the Bat family. She's been around as long as Dick Grayson, since 1940, and is one of the people that Batman trusts the most. In fact, she really should just be considered a straight up member at this point, not even extended. She's not just a super accomplished thief, but is also a skilled unarmed and armed combatant who is known for her agility. Number 1. Lucius Fox. Lucius Fox is one of Batman's closest friends and most trusted allies. He has been around for a long time too, first appearing in Batman issue 307 in 1979. Not quite as long as Catwoman, but still pretty impressive. Although Lucius is not known for his physical prowess, he is one of the smartest and most gifted businessmen and sometimes inventors in the world, which is what makes him such a powerful friend and ally to Bruce and to Wayne Enterprises. Currently in continuity, Lucius is the CEO of Wayne Enterprises, having risen in the company since his first appearance in the New Earth continuity, where he was originally helping Bruce to run a charity organization. Bruce noticed Fox's prowess early on and quickly made him his personal assistant and financial advisor, very much valuing Lucius for his business savvy. There have been many times where it has been up to Lucius to save Wayne Enterprises and ensure it stays afloat. And without Wayne Enterprises or his money, it would be very hard for Bruce as Batman to accomplish all that he sets out to do. Also, can we just talk about Morgan Freeman playing Lucius Fox in the Dark Knight movies? So good! So awesome. Lucius Fox is great.